Hello and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World. My name is Diana Skaya. Senior U.S. and Chinese negotiators are meeting in Stockholm on Monday to tackle deep-rooted economic disputes at the heart of their ongoing trade war. Now, their main goal is to extend a truce that prevents the imposition of sharply higher tariffs. China faces an August 12 deadline to secure a lasting tariff agreement with the Trump administration, following a preliminary deal reached in June to ease escalating trade tensions. Joining me now to discuss this further is Stankomir Nicieja, Associate Professor at the University of Opole. Thank you so much for being with us here on World Talks this morning.
Good morning.
Stankomir, let me ask you this. So yesterday we have this new trade agreement that was reached between Ursula von der Leyen, between Donald Trump. Let's look at now China and the United States today. Now, they're supposed to meet in Stockholm. What is at stake exactly? What can we expect to take place this time around during these talks? And particularly, I want to ask you, let me give you the negative scenario. What happens if no deal is reached by August 12th?
If no deal is reached by August 12, it means the imposition of the tariffs that were promised by Donald Trump. And that means also, predominantly, it means huge disruption in the international trade and exchange of goods and services between the two biggest economies in the world. So there is a potential for troubles, not only for China, as the one that is supposed to lose one of its most lucrative market, but also trouble for the world economy and also the economy of the United States, because we have to remember that this is trade. This is not as if we have a deficit, it's not just one side loses, the other gains. Of course, when we buy something, we also get something in return, sometimes things that are badly needed. And we know that for years, the United States have developed the deep dependency on exports from China. So that could also mean not only much higher prices for the American consumer, but also disruption in the flow of goods. So trouble for everyone, but the deal also, I think, in the larger perspective, and I think this is what people look at, the result of the summit is the preparation of the big meeting later this year, probably in the autumn, between Xi Jinping and Donald Trump. And then this is the time where most people expect the dispute to be finally resolved.
But let me ask you this. Do you think that in this context, Beijing could actually really afford to make concessions right now, especially that its economy is reeling from the property crisis, for instance, a weak domestic demand?
So Beijing is in a much better situation than earlier. As you mentioned, it is recovering a little bit better from the a recession or at least a significant economic slowdown. But also Beijing holds many crucial cards at the negotiating table. One of the most important is the Chinese control over the rare earth minerals that are crucial in the production of the highest technology. So you can impose sanctions, limit Chinese access to the technologies, but without the rare earth minerals, you cannot produce anything, literally. Most of even the simplest electronic goods that depend on those. And China in the last decade has managed to control most of the production, most of the extraction of those rare earth minerals. So this is one of the most important advantages that they have. And probably this will be the theme around which the discussions will be held.
Now, do you think that possibly the United States' tough stance on China be actually pushing European countries to seek closer ties with Beijing instead? Of course, also, if we take into context the deal that was signed between the EU and the U.S. yesterday. And I also want to ask you about, we're trying to, of course, prevent tariffs to snap back to 145% on the U.S. right, on the U.S. side, and 125% on the Chinese side. I mean, how is that going to look like? I mean, we're talking about huge numbers here.
But I don't think anyone seriously believes that these are something more than just threats or negotiating positions. Donald Trump has already backed down from those steep tariffs into the territories of 45%, depending on the areas. And also, we know that Donald Trump is not very consistent here. So we'll see how that develops today. Most of the people expect that they will reach some kind of agreement around the number 15% that was negotiated earlier with Japan and the European Union yesterday. So that's a more general expectation of the level too. But most of all, probably it will be the extension of the deadline that is coming in mid-August into further discussions, and probably we will have another meeting. This meeting today in Stockholm is just the third in the series. Previously, we had a meeting in Geneva, in London, and probably within a month there will be another meeting to prepare the summit in the autumn that I mentioned earlier.
In October, yeah. Could heightened U.S.-China rivalry, you think, push Europe into possibly adopting a more independent foreign policy?
We should see. Not, a couple of days ago we had a China-EU summit in Beijing, and it did not end with anything significant. Once again, European position is not as strong as we would like. So it's difficult to extract any concessions from very adamant China. China feels emboldened by this position that it holds towards the United States, that it works for it in the long run. That's the feeling. So I don't think they're willing to make any concessions to the European Union, and in this way somehow make the relationship between EU and China much better. So no expectation in the foreseeable future of any closer ties between, or any change of mood between the European Union and China.
And trade war aside, what would you say are the current political situation between the United States and China, their political relations?
The political relations have been stable in its intensity in the last at least 7-8 years. This was initiated, this kind of more hostile, more confrontational attitude that was initiated during Donald Trump's first term. And it has not changed significantly. The direction is that those two greatest economies become competitors, as China has become much more robust economically, and it is recovering from the recession that was caused by the pandemic, as it is diversifying its supply chain and also signing new deals with other countries beyond the West. So this is a very dynamic but I think stable situation in this rivalry, because both sides have their well-defined interests, they have their positions, and of course we are, like in this summit in Stockholm, they are discussing basically details, but the general directions, no one expects change of the general directions, only details that are discussed, and managing this very difficult relationship, that's complex relationship, because those two economies are very, very strongly interconnected. So it is not easy to do this famous decoupling that people are talking about.
Stankomir, let me ask you this. You mentioned a couple of times a possible meeting that they're planning. If I believe it's in late October. What do you think is going to be on their agenda? Assuming that a deal, of course, would be reached, and no further flare-up of tariffs erupt, right?
This is understood as a summing up of all those talks, those that are being conducted throughout the year. So it will probably be this great television show for the global and American press, where the two powerful leaders will sign the agreement. Donald Trump, on the one hand, has this very hostile attitude to China, but he has a very cordial attitude to Xi Jinping himself. Remember, he invited him to the inauguration. He constantly praises many of his skills and abilities. So there is this there's expectation that he will make, like he likes to do, and what he's master in, a kind of show to somehow bolster his weakening internal position. So he hoped that this big deal with China will be another occasion to promote his policy, to promote himself as a president of the United States, as a key political figure in U.S. politics.
If I could sum it up in one word, I would say what you almost calling it theatrics, possible theatrics.
Yeah, very much so. The details are discussed, and then there is this theater of actually signing up then the show, in which both the Chinese, you have to give it to them, and the Americans are masters. And if the talks are successful, we can expect some great television images coming from the summit.
Thank you so much, Stankomir Nicieja, Associate Professor at the University of Opole, for being with us here on World Talks.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
And that's all for this edition of World Talks here on TVP World. I'm Diana Skaya. Thanks for watching.